G'day guys and welcome to Raging Rhino. Ever since Disney took over Star Wars, there's been a lot of criticism out there from the fans towards Lucasfilm for the damage that they've done to the Star Wars universe. Now, it not only is with the sequel trilogy, but there has been a bit of criticism out there for the different series that they've come out with on Disney+. But a lot of the criticism obviously all launched from the sequel trilogy. Now, there were a lot of Disney shills when that criticism was out there saying that, oh, Star Wars is just for kids and it's about space wizards.
This is a film about space wizards intended for children.
Now, I couldn't disagree with that more. As a kid, yes, I loved Star Wars. But as an adult, there was actually a lot more that I got out of Star Wars that I did when I was an actual kid. Now, I'm not saying that it's for adults. I'm not saying that it's for kids. Star Wars is for everybody. It's a great story. Essentially, the 6 movies is a great story. What they've been coming out with is trying to fill gaps, trying to change the story, the canon that was essentially there in the EU. But now that we've actually had the Andor series drop, there were a couple of things in that I thought, yes, there are a lot more adult themed, but I don't think that they're really too appropriate if they are making this for kids. Now, I brought this up a couple of days ago and I put out on Twitter Andor spoilers. There's a brothel, there's an implied sex scene, they say shit, there are no subtitles for non-English speaking characters and no protocol droids. There are aliens, but none of them are an actual character. All in all, not Star Wars and boring as hell. That was my opinion on what we got out of the first 3 episodes of Andor. But I don't think I was the only one to notice this. I came across this article yesterday. We watched Andor, Can Your Kids? And I thought it was a great question, and this comes from Aaron Schill from Desert News. Now, I love the name Aaron Schill. Aaron, shout out to you for writing this article because, again, you spotted a lot of the same things that I did, but I love the fact that your name is Schill. You're not shilling in this article too much at all, to be honest with you, but I just thought the name was quite funny. Anyway, let's move on to what he actually has to say in this article. Disney bought the Star Wars franchise in 2012, launched Disney Plus in 2019, and has since developed The Mandalorian, The Book of Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, the last 2 in fairly quick succession. You can be forgiven if you didn't see Andor coming. That's appropriate though, because so far, it's a fairly understated series that follows an understated character from one of the more understated, though excellent, movies in the Star Wars library. I think that's the shilliest thing that he says, that Rogue One is actually excellent. I wouldn't go so far to say it's excellent. I'd say it's probably the best movie that they have done, or the best thing that they've actually done, because it can slot in quite well, even though they have changed a few things from the EU in that series, or in that movie, I should say. But he doesn't really go too far into that. He goes on further down here to say basically what is Andor, the breakdown, and we're not going to go into that. And he also says, watch it or not, here's what you should know about it. No, I don't really want to go into that. What I do want to go into this is, can you watch it with the whole family? This series is not for young kids for a few reasons. First off, it's quite slow and young children will likely be bored. Andor has all the indicators of a slow burn. So far, it's more tension than action. In fact, there are long stretches where you might forget you're watching a Star Wars show before a droid shows up and reminds you. And I thought that was a really, really good point too, because it didn't feel like Star Wars to me. When the droid does show up, it actually felt more like WALL-E than it did like Star Wars. But a lot of this show doesn't really feel like Star Wars. Now, Grace Randolph will say that it's because they don't really show you the Easter eggs. There's nothing in there to actually indicate that this is Star Wars, which is absolute bullshit. You can definitely make Star Wars without putting the Easter eggs or jangling the keys for all the audience. But he goes on to say, also this series already deals in more adult themes. The opening scene shows a visit to a brothel, followed by a killing via a blaster to the head. The second episode also features the closest thing you'll see to a sex scene in the Star Wars universe. Now, again, those were some of the things that I really did notice in this, like the brothel scene. Why did it have to be a brothel? Now, I understand that it's the fact that his sister was working there. Couldn't it have been a bar where she was working as a waitress or something and really struggling to make her way in the galaxy? I reckon that could have been better in regards to having it there for the kids. But also too, like that killing in the opening scene, I even said that that was quite dark. Now, I don't really have a problem with that because, of course, we see people getting decapitated, we see arms being chopped off, limbs being chopped off throughout Star Wars. So to me, that's not really too bad. It was just quite dark, and for the hero to be doing it, it's a little bit, obviously we do see Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope cut off the arm in the bar in that scene, but, you know, it was kind of a bit more dark in this, I will say that. And in regards to the second episode with the implied sex scene, I thought that that was probably one of the more inappropriate scenes in Star Wars that I think I've ever seen, especially if this is for kids. But he does go on to say there's nothing gratuitous. The brothel is basically empty, the kill shot isn't shown, and the brief scene of sensuality features only kissing and implied sex. However, this Star Wars series is more grown up and the TV-14 rating seems appropriate. So, look, this person obviously, Aaron Schill, he obviously noticed the same things that I did. But it's the fact that we were criticized for actually getting our arms up in the air about like what they'd been doing in regards to destroying Star Wars. And we got criticized for it because we're not kids. And don't take it so seriously. It's a story about space wizards intended for children.
This is a film about space wizards intended for children.
It's like, no, it's not. It's actually intended for everybody. And what are you saying about kids in regards to that? Like, do they not deserve good entertainment? You've got to actually just make it stupid, silly, and comedic for the kids? No, that's not what Star Wars ever was. It was actually a very serious thing. And you can go on YouTube and you can see kids that these days that are watching Star Wars for the first time and watching the scene where Vader says, "No, I am your father," to Luke and all of that sort of thing. And they're in shock. Like, the kids love it. The adults love it. And like I said earlier on, as a kid, yeah, I loved it. I watched it. It was great. But as I became older and became an adult, I actually got a lot more out of it because there's a lot more adult themes in Star Wars. In the 6 movies that George Lucas made us, even though there is the childish aspect to it and the comedic aspects to it with Jar Jar and shit like that, there are definitely adult themes to it as well. And adults can get a lot out of Star Wars. So I don't want to hear this bullshit anymore that Star Wars is for kids. In regards to Star Wars now, though, I completely agree with Aaron in the fact that kids won't get this. I watched the first 2 episodes and some of the conversations that were taking place, I was even lost in that. I don't know how a kid is supposed to actually understand what's going on. But then there is also the brothel, the implied sex scene. They say shit now, which I know, I've got a massive Twitter thread on my Twitter of these 2 guys having a conversation about them using the word shit. And of course, Han uses the "I'll see you in hell." But like, to add these things in, it's kind of like with the Star Trek thing, you know, the sheer fucking hubris. Like, those words I don't think should be in there. And I think with Star Wars, it had its own slang, pooju and shit like that, as opposed to using shit. I think they could have done a little bit better with that, to be honest with you. But these themes that they're trying to put in there, it just seems to me to be that Disney is just moving forward with their grooming of children and they're trying to seep these little messages into the Star Wars universe and, of course, all their other bullshit, Marvel, everything else. But I want to stick with the Star Wars stuff. And I just don't think that it's really appropriate to put those things in, to be honest with you. Again, it's not like we saw ladies stripping in the brothel or, you know, it's not like we actually saw the sex scene, but there are actual implications in there. And, you know, I don't think it's necessarily the best way to go about it. Like I said, that opening scene could have just been a bar that she was working in and she got fired or something and, you know, now she's struggling, she's out there, he's looking for his sister, all of that sort of thing. Anyway, I just wanted to say, at least somebody else noticed this. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow for episode 4 of Andor. Later, guys.
Shit. We're under siege.